Disclaimer. The following visual and audio content has been generated using artificial intelligence. The voice presented is an AI-generated imitation and is not the authentic voice of David Paulides. The story and missing person case depicted are works of AI-created fiction. Any names, characters, or events portrayed are entirely fictional and are not based on any real missing person or actual investigation. This video is purely for educational purposes to demonstrate the dangers of AI.
Hi everyone, this is Dave of the Can-Am Missing Project, and today I have a recent missing person case out of Yosemite National Park. The incident takes place in early June during one of Yosemite's busiest hiking seasons. The park was crowded with tourists, photographers, and experienced hikers enjoying nearly perfect conditions. Rangers reported clear blue skies, light winds, and temperatures hovering around 70 degrees. 34-year-old Isaac Fairbank arrived at the park shortly after sunrise. He was an experienced outdoorsman who had completed dozens of hikes throughout California and regularly documented his trips with photographs. Friends described him as cautious and methodical, someone who always stayed on established trails and never took unnecessary risks. His vehicle was found parked at a popular trailhead, and security cameras captured him beginning his hike at approximately 8:17 that morning. Witnesses later recalled seeing him smiling and carrying a small day pack as he disappeared into the forest. The last reported sighting occurred just before noon, when another hiker claimed to have seen him standing quietly near a large granite outcrop, staring into the tree line as though he had heard something off the trail. When asked if he was okay, he simply nodded before continuing deeper into the woods. At 12:47 p.m., his mother received a voicemail from his cell phone. The message lasted 11 seconds. There was no speech, no wind, no birds, no footsteps, only a slow, deliberate tapping sound that repeated every few seconds before the recording ended abruptly. She assumed the call had been accidental and planned to ask him about it later that evening. That conversation never happened. When Isaac failed to return home that night, park rangers were notified, and search teams began organizing before sunrise the following morning. Dozens of search and rescue personnel and volunteers systematically combed nearby streams, steep cliffs, dense forest, and rugged backcountry terrain, following every possible lead. Trained tracking dogs were deployed early in the operation, but handlers reported that the dogs repeatedly lost Isaac's scent along a rocky section of trail before circling back in apparent confusion, unable to establish a consistent direction of travel. Then something unusual happened. The same area that had enjoyed calm weather for nearly 2 days suddenly became engulfed by dark clouds. Heavy rain swept across the valley, while thick fog settled over higher elevations. Gusting winds forced helicopters to remain grounded for much of the day, and visibility dropped to only a few hundred feet in some locations. On the fourth day, one search team located Isaac's backpack resting upright against a fallen log nearly 3 miles from the nearest marked trail. Inside were his wallet, extra clothing, snacks, portable battery pack, and camera. Nothing appeared disturbed. His boots, however, were never recovered. Neither was his phone. Forensic specialists examined the mysterious voicemail, but could not determine what produced the rhythmic tapping sound. Some investigators suggested branches striking together in the wind, although weather records indicated the conditions were calm at the time the message was received. Others believed the sound resembled someone slowly tapping wood or stone with a hard object. No definitive explanation was ever reached. Despite dozens of volunteers, multiple helicopter searches, drone surveys, thermal imaging, and weeks of searching difficult terrain, no additional trace of Isaac Fairbank was ever found. Conclusion. When you look at this case, there are a number of details that stand out. An experienced hiker disappears on a clear day. A strange voicemail containing nothing but rhythmic tapping arrives moments before the disappearance. Search operations begin under ideal conditions, only for the weather to deteriorate almost immediately, limiting the ability to cover ground. The circumstances echo many of the patterns often discussed in the Missing 411 series. Search dogs reportedly tracking a scent before abruptly losing it, only to circle back repeatedly as if the trail simply vanished. Personal belongings such as backpacks or clothing later discovered miles from the last known location. Stories like this remind us how quickly circumstances can change when we're far from civilization. They highlight the importance of preparing thoroughly before heading into the wilderness by carrying the right equipment, checking weather conditions, planning your route, and knowing the risks. They also remind us to always tell someone where we're going and when we expect to return, as these simple precautions can make all the difference in an emergency. Thanks for watching, thanks for supporting the work, and I'll see you on the next video. And remember, folks, in the age of AI, it's more important than ever to be super cautious about everything you see and hear on the internet.